If you've ever struggled with what to do to re-energize your organization, how to create a plan, how to create a board that becomes highly effective and becomes real partners, this podcast is for you. We're going to learn how our friend Jamison Buxton did that. And you'll see direct application on how you can do the same thing in ways that are applicable to you. Join us today on the Leadership Initiative as you learn how to reinvent yourself and reinvent the organization that you lead.
At InitiativeOne, we're igniting a leadership revolution by helping organizations eliminate the drama, improve decision-making, and win as a team. Join Dr. Fred Johnson on the Leadership Initiative podcast as we uncover insights to maximize your impact and transform your life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Initiative. I'm Dr. Fred Johnson. I'm the founder of InitiativeOne. We're back together today for another informative podcast. I'd like to introduce to you my friend, colleague. We go back several years, and I'd love to introduce to you today Jamison Buxton. Jamison is this incredible CEO of the Hemophilia Outreach Center here in Green Bay. They are doing cutting-edge work. In fact, they are breaking barriers in new work for the bleeding disorder community that no one else in the world is doing. And they're doing it right here in Green Bay. And Jamison has this incredible story. We're going to learn about his story, about where the Hemophilia Outreach Center was when he took over a number of years ago, and where it is today, and what were the key steps that he took that is informative for all of us when we are trying to reinvent an organization and put it on a completely different trajectory towards greatness. And he has done that. Jamison, it is really awesome to have you with us today.
Well, I'm honored and humbled to be here with you, Fred.
You know, I remember, how many years ago was it that we started working together?
2018.
Wow. Okay, 7 years. And so if you would, describe for our audience in simplistic terms, and that's kind of a challenge, what do you all do, and specifically, what are the big breakthroughs that have made you all such a huge name within your professional field around the country?
Yeah, so we are a hemophilia treatment center, or HTC as they call it. One of the big treatments that we are engaged in is gene therapy. We were the first in the country to offer it commercially to patients. And I believe we are going on to our fifth one up in the coming weeks here.
So you all don't just deal with the symptoms of hemophilia and blood disorders. You're doing the actual work that changes the root cause of what created their blood disorders in the first place. Am I correct about that?
Correct. We aren't doing the research aspect of it, but we're doing the treatment aspect.
Wow, that's amazing. So knowing that that's such a big deal, I believe that you all did what, the first 2 or 3 cases in the United States in right here in Green Bay?
That's correct. The first 2.
Okay.
For hemophilia B.
Okay. So you're doing literally life-changing work. And I know your journey. 7 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about life-changing work as a dream. What was the state of the organization that you lead? What was the state when you first took over as CEO? And I believe you were in your early 30s.
Yeah, I was 29 at the time when I took over, at that time, the executive director role. As far as daily operations and employees, the organization from the outside was very healthy looking, but there was a lot of chaos once I stepped into the role.
And so describe the chaos.
Lack of leadership.
I mean, your board was at that time really was not an active board. There was, would you say that it was a fear-based board that really wanted to play things safe, didn't want to take risks? And what did that create within the center itself?
Well, like you said, it was a lot of fear-based decision, not a lot of
vision.
Correct, vision.
Not a lot of bold thinking. Not a lot of how are we going to grow and how are we going to widen our footprint and how are we going to impact hundreds of more people than ever before.
Correct. There was not an alignment between what was happening on a daily basis with the employees and the board of directors. And again, that came down to the leadership or the executive role at the time.
Okay. So if you could, and you've done hundreds of things in the 7 years to change the trajectory, but if you could put them in buckets, what would, as you have reinvented and creating a whole new future for this organization to serve hundreds of people that are desperate for treatment, if you could put them in big buckets, what would you say to the audience that were critical in changing the future of this organization?
I think the first thing was establishing a strong culture throughout the organization from both the board of director level and then the daily operational team.
So what do you mean specifically for you? What was challenging about the culture and how would you describe the culture now?
So I think the most difficult part was just simply figuring out how to establish a strong culture. That was in itself a leadership learning or pivot point for myself. I did not come from a leadership role, but I was very passionate about this organization and wanted it to succeed.
So we worked a lot on helping your team to become unified, being able to deal with conflict with each other, being able to learn how to make principle-based decisions, not reactionary-based decisions. We learned how to deal with drama. And when you began, your team started getting healthier. Did it have unintended or implications that you didn't ever realize that would come?
Yes, absolutely. There were situations where the healthier your culture becomes, the more those that don't want to be a part of it start to become exposed and or find themselves navigating away from your vision and values.
And often those folks will try to undermine through less than integrous ways to divide people, even go to board members, and you had board members who actually entertained conversations with a couple of those folks that they shouldn't have been entertaining with. And so I remember so what did you do specifically with us to start working and changing and transforming this culture? Because your culture today, it's a rock star culture. Your people love being there. There's no one there that's putting in time, you know? So what were the keys to that?
Well, I think it started with leadership in myself. I had to be vulnerable. I had to be open. What I felt is, the team was craving leadership or an individual there for them to be able to come to be able to trust in, and just hold close to them and keep them stable.
So you created a psychological safe environment for them, and created it took away the political environment and really started making it an environment where they became a real team, that they appreciated being with each other.
Correct.
So I remember in those early days, we had a lot of conversations about being patient, but you were only going to go so far unless the board was strengthened. How did you do that?
Worked closely with them. Took my time, just as you were saying, to evaluate and find out where the weaknesses were and how to get aligned with the organization's vision and values.
You began to have expectations of the board.
Correct.
When you began to say, I don't want us, these are my words, I don't want us to be a country club board, that we're just showing up because it's a nice thing, but we want really, we want to tell Jamison what to do, but we really don't want to dig in deep. You began to have expectations. And when you began to share those expectations, what happened?
There was a realignment, as I said.
Some people just said, I don't want this, it's too much.
Yes, and we had individuals that did want that.
Yes.
As far as new board members, or even board members that were previously on the board prior to myself, and re-engaged in the community and the organization itself.
So I'm hearing that one of the first strategic things that you did, one, was you began to work on the culture to re-energize your team players. Then you began to re-energize the board, and you set expectations, and that you wanted their leadership. But I also remember that you began to talk to them about a partnership. What's partnership look like when you're working with the board?
That individuals put in time, energy, effort, just as us and the team are doing on a daily basis.
And that you wanted them to listen to your input as much as you were listening to their input. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay. So once you began to make those two critical steps, what was the next step?
I would say the next step was a strategic plan that isn't just words or a document that was filled out, but actually taking the time to dig in and really establish our foundation as an organization.
87% of strategic plans fail to meet desired expectations. You all, I remember us working with you to build that over a series of weeks to build that thing. Why was it real?
Buy-in. Everybody put in the effort to establish what it is we wanted for the organization and how to move it forward.
So you involved a lot of people. It took longer because when you involve a lot of people, it requires much more time for dialogue, for people to be heard, to sift through all of the ideas and come down with those compelling factors. And so since then, tell us about what has happened. When I always tell people that successful organizations don't worry about the money. They focus on providing a 10 experience. And if you focus on providing a 10 experience, the revenue has a way of taking care of itself. Was that true for you all?
Absolutely.
So describe the shift. I mean, was the organization completely financially healthy? Where is it now? what is it allowing you to do?
Yeah, the organization prior to me was sound, but it was stagnant. When we all were bought into the strategic plan or the vision of the organization, we started to recognize that, we could offer more and do more for our patient population. We expanded into Wausau, Wisconsin. We added additional services to provide to our patients. And that patient population started to grow. And with that, so did the financial health of the organization.
When an organization lacks a clear plan that prioritizes the direction, the outcomes that we want, and the strategies to get us there, and the timeline for execution. Without that, organizations look for ways to justify their existence. The measurement may be how busy that we are. The measurement may be how many people know about us. For you all, I remember there was a time that some of the folks in the organization thought the measurement should be how much money we have in the bank. And you can have a lot of money in the bank by doing nothing and not taking risks, not making investments. Did you have to retrain your board how to think differently?
I think it was a natural progression throughout the organization.
As you got stronger people.
Correct. And, we started to work collaboratively, and we started to see the same vision for the organization and moving it forward and offering new services and expanding into different parts of Wisconsin. And
compared to where you were 7 years ago, even though you were sound 7 years ago, you are exponentially stronger now, but you're not using how much money you have in the bank as a focus of how strong you are. You're using that as a tool for investing in new services, new outcomes, widening your footprint. The money is a tool. It's not the end that you're looking for, correct?
Correct.
So what would you say, Braxton, because I have seen in 7 years tremendous growth in you. I mean, you were a strong leader the day you started. Starting at 29, I mean, I thought on day one you were 29 going on 45. What were the key changes that you made as a leader that started making a difference in your organization? What transformation did you have to work on?
I believe I was somewhat clueless. As you had mentioned, I suffered from the imposter syndrome. I was concerned about my age. Do I have the ability to have the experience and the authority to lead an organization? And it was an internal battle that even today I still struggle with, but I've learned how to manage those emotions, those thoughts.
And you came from a non-traditional education background, that you didn't have a formal degree within healthcare. And I remember us having those conversations that I don't have that formal degree that some of folks in my field have. And I remember I used to say to you, wait a second, you can have a degree and not be a leader. But a leader is ultimately not measured by how much education you have. There are different kinds of education. And a leader is ultimately measured by your ability to move the needle in an organization and help them to become much more effective in influencing the outcomes of the people that they serve. And you had to change your self-narrative in order to change your leadership. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, very fair.
So in the remaining moments that we have, Jamison, what would you say to leaders that are looking in that are filled with self-doubt, that are questioning their abilities, that are wondering if they're up for their task? We all have that I'm not enough struggle. What would you say in closing that is critical for self-talk and changing your self-narrative to change your outcomes?
I would say that growth isn't linear. You're going to have steps back. You're going to have leaps forward. But to stay with it, believe in yourself, believe in the team around you, establish a great team that when you're on a bad day, they can help you get out of it.
I would also remember you made a concerted effort to surround yourself and begin to include, you built an accountability circle.
Yes.
You started attending executive cohorts with other CEOs, and you would share some of your struggles. And those other CEOs would just politely just sit there like that and say nothing? Is that what happened?
Absolutely not. They were very much encouraging, supportive, but also wanted accountability from me.
And so part of leadership is getting out of being in a place of isolation. You talk about vulnerability. Vulnerability is putting in a place where everyone knows your dirty laundry or what you think is dirty laundry. And being able to create a space where you can receive feedback. And you did that in a systematic, disciplined, unceasing fashion. And as your circle got richer, you got richer. So in light of that, would you say to them that an essential part of a CEO's journey is constantly surround yourself with people who you believe may be smarter than you, wiser than you, more gifted than you, or is that a sign of weakness that you don't know what you're doing if you do that?
No, absolutely. I would agree with surrounding yourself with those individuals that can lift you up.
Well, my friend, I'm proud of you. A little secret. I actually had the privilege of reaching back into my pastor days and pulling out my old skills. And I had the privilege right in this room a couple of years ago of marrying you and your wife, who you met at HOC.
Correct.
So the change in your life, professionally and personally, has been profound.
Yes.
Well, buddy, it is good to see you. I am so thrilled with the trajectory that HOC is on. You're working with people all over the state now. There are people all over the country that are coming to you all for advice on how to be a state-of-the-art treatment center. I'm really proud of the work that you've done. You are a testimony that you don't have to be a gray-haired old guy to be a really effective executive leader, and you're living proof of it. It is so great to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate you and all you do.
Thank you, brother. I want to say thank you for joining us today for another podcast of the Leadership Initiative. And we hope that you'll be joining us. Check out our think tanks. Go online, check us out on LinkedIn or our Facebook. There are some amazing things that we're doing and some critical offerings that we're offering that are absolutely transforming companies and leaders around the country. Check us out. We'd love to begin to invite you to be a deeper part of the InitiativeOne family. Thank you.